Okay, my friends, part two, the wine glass and the apple. I'll try to get all this finished anyway. Let's see how we go, yes? Okay, the wine glass. I'm going to get a nice flat brush. This is dry, okay? I left this for 1 day and it's dry. Isn't that just wonderful? Lovely and dry. I can touch it all I want. Lovely and dry. It dries fairly fast. The reason it dries a little bit quicker is with the linseed oil mixed in with the turpentine. The linseed oil tends to dry much quicker, so it just creates this lovely glossy kind of finish on the oil paint. It just dries in very quickly and it really helps the drying time. So yeah, all is good. Let's start painting. Okay, we have this color coming down the middle of the glass. Okay, I did a quick kind of a light sketch with a pencil here. I don't know if you can see it. I just literally just scratched it into the paint roughly. So let's I think we'll start with the nice orangey wine. Is it wine or is it apple juice? I don't know. It probably is just apple juice, I think. I suppose it makes sense. You have an apple, you have a jug, and you have a glass with apple juice in it. Isn't that right? So let's see if we can get this color. It is a kind of a yellowy, mustardy, browny kind of a color. Let's try it and see. Let's dampen our brushes. Let's go right into some cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow pale. I should have maybe changed my palette, but look, it's okay. We can just keep going. We keep going with this. Sometimes I like to see a palette like this, lots of color. I'm going to take some burnt sienna into that, and I want plenty of paint on this now. It is quite cold in the studio here this morning. It's about 9 a.m. here in the morning. It's quite cold, so the paints, even in the tubes, the paints are quite difficult to get out because it's very cold and they kind of tend to harden slightly when they're cold, very cold. So the paints are a little bit on the thick side. You see that? Really have to push into the paint to get the paint out. But never mind, it's fine. Burnt sienna, cadmium yellow, and I might take a hint of, let me think. What about a hint of burnt umber? I'm hoping that gives me the color I want. Okay, that's a good color to start with, I think. Let's just fill this in. It is quite luminous. Not luminous, it's very translucent. That's the thing about certain colors. Burnt sienna is very translucent and cadmium yellow is very translucent. And what I mean by translucent is they don't have great covering power, okay? So you can see the canvas is really showing through. The best way to thicken this up is to add maybe a hint of Naples yellow first. I'll go with a very opaque kind of a colour. Now on the photograph, that looks to me like it's just going straight across, don't it? If it was up higher, it might have a slight curve upwards. If it was down lower, it would have a curve downwards. Okay, that's the general theory of painting curves. But looking at the photograph there now, looks to me like it's just straight across. I'm going to put a very slight curve on it, just a slight. Now I'll take some burnt umber into that and a touch of cadmium red. I'm going to put this warm shade in the middle, and I'm going to start darkening now just slowly, bit by bit. And the darker I make these, the more covering power it's going to have, okay? Now I could even just let that sit for a while, leave it kind of grab the canvas. I'm going to just dry my brush slightly and take a hint of black. And I'm going to go with a hint of, let me see, black and cadmium red. And I might take a hint of, cadmium yellow actually. That will give me a nice sort of a muddy colour. But still, you see, I'm still keeping it that yellowy sort of a hue, okay? Let me just try this. It's quite dark in the centre, isn't it? I could maybe just use a bit of black and some brown as well. Now what I'm going to do is, as you're coming to the edges, I'm going to just sort of turn the brush slightly to match the shape of the glass, okay? That's generally what I would do when I'm painting. And when you get to the center, it's literally straight down. You see that? And we can just keep going and darkening this as much as we want. And of course, the more brown and the more black we add, the more covering it's going to get. It's going to cover much better. Now I will go a good bit out. And I'll go a good bit out here as well. Okay, so you can see we're still keeping that little touch of glow on the outside. Isn't that nice? Now let me get some black into that. And I'm going to just really darken that center. It's quite dark up there, especially around the top. It's quite dark. Pull that down gently, let that soften through the colours. Very gently, just with the tip of your brush, okay? And we don't have to do too much to the actual liquid in the glass, okay? We don't need to do too much to that. Maybe just a touch now of black into that mix, so it's a very dark, muddy colour. And it's going to then mix with the colours I already have, you see? So when you think to yourself, you know, when I'm saying I'll take a touch of black, I'm not putting pure black on. When I put it on, it's mixing slightly with the colours already here, you see? So it's creating different shades. Okay, so I'm not putting pure black onto my paint, okay, if that makes sense. It's going to mix immediately and start lightening. But it's the best way to get good power in your dark, okay? Just put it right on and it will lighten as it goes. So I'm just going to kind of mix that around now. Maybe go down along the sides slightly. And I'm remembering, I just want to keep the outside edges. Okay, I'm going to fix my curve on the glass just slightly. No, there we go. Okay, I had the basic, that's my basic filling in done now, I think, for my juice, my apple juice. The next thing you can see is little touches of light on this side, a little bit more on that side, perhaps along the top as well. So I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm going to go with a small round brush, okay? I'm going to take some cadmium yellow. Now my yellow has a little bit of green from underneath, so it's just a little bit tricky to get this right. I'm going to take a little cadmium red and then maybe a little white just to lighten it slightly, but there's a lot more yellow in this, okay? It's sort of a bright, soft yellow, if that makes sense. It's not a luminous yellow. That touch of cadmium red just softens the yellow a little bit, so it's not pure sun yellow. Do you understand what I mean? Now, let me just take this, that's a thick paint, and I'm going to go, actually I'm going to get my stick. I think I need my stick for this one. My hands are quite shaky because it's so cold. I do apologise. Okay, down like that. I'm going to soften that, like so. And you can even kind of put a little flick across here and there as well. Now, clean the brush in between just to keep it nice and bright. Take a hint of pure yellow on its own. Put a hint of pure yellow just here and there. As it comes up, you can see it gets quite a bit warmer, doesn't it? It goes into, it's almost like a nice browny orange, isn't it? Now I'll bring that browny orange right across the top as well. So you can kind of see I'm not softening this in completely. I'm leaving slight hints of a brush stroke. You see? And don't worry, we will be adding a lot more lights to this later. Okay? This really is not the final shade. I'll leave my highlights till later on. Now I'm going to take some more of that bright colour. I'm going to go off to this side. Just add a little touch of that down here. We also have these wonderful little crisscrosses going through the glass, don't we? Will we try and recreate some of those? Will we try it? Let's just take some of that bright yellow that we just had and perhaps go like that and that. So you can see I'm just almost allowing this to kind of mix through that dark colour, all right? There we go. You can see it's just a hint of colour, that's all. Then I'm going to take a little darker colour just to give those a tiny, tiny hint of shade on one of the sides, okay? A little browny red, little dark browny red. And let's just go here and there, look. It's just a little hint, that's all. We don't have to go absolutely crazy with this. Okay. Now, it's only a suggestion, that's all. That's all we're going for is a little suggestion, that's it. Okay, we have a nice little bit of a dark down the bottom as well. I'm going to take that browny red and I'm going to simply just pop a little bit of that across the bottom. I can just see a little bit of a dark there, so I'm going to just pop it in and just soften it around. The thing about this kind of painting is you can really just take your time and you can make it what you like. If you're happy enough with what you have, just leave it. You don't have to keep trying and trying and trying to get this absolutely perfect, okay? You really don't. I'm just sort of fiddling around with this now at the moment. Adding a little bit of texture here and there as well. Okay, now, that's okay. I'm going to put a very bright sparkle just on the right-hand corner down at the bottom, just to really show that light sparkling, really hitting the edge of the glass down here. You see, just like that. And perhaps a little there. Don't have to go mad with this now. Okay? Now, that's fine. Moving on down. Let's move down. I'm going to go to my small stubby brush, nice little flat brush. They're fantastic for this. And it's simply a lighter shade. There's a hint of a green in that too, isn't there? Take some of that cadmium yellow. And let's go with some Naples yellow. And then I am going to take a hint of, let me see, a hint of burnt umber perhaps. And then a touch of cerulean blue. It's a very kind of a mucky colour, isn't it? If you look closer, you can see it's a very mucky, greeny colour. So I'm simply going to just fill that in. We have these little ridges, don't we? like that. So these are kind of, this is just sort of the basic outline. And then I'm going to take a small brush. I get my very small pointy detail brush. I hope you can see this okay now, okay? I really do. I don't want to, I could zoom right in, but then you won't see me mixing. So that's the problem. And I really want you to see me mixing. That's very important. You need to see how it's mixed, all that kind of thing. So I'm just being careful. I don't want to go right in. Now, the cerulean blue, a green and a bit of black, okay? You have this dark sort of a grey colour. So we'll go around the edges with that first. I'm just looking very closely now at the photograph and looking at those darks, okay? There's some nice darks right across the middle here. Like that. It's even darker again. I could get some burnt umber with a touch of crimson. I'm just generally going around with just dark colours and popping little hints of dark colour. Here and there. The thing about this is I wanted to sort of soften together, but at the same time see the shapes, okay? So the next step now is really, I think, just to get some bright colour. I'm going to go with this bright greeny yellow I have up here, and I start with the edges here. A little bit more white, that, and go very bright. And these will be the little touches of reflections catching the glass here and there, okay? Just that little rim. I know it's not perfect, but at the end of the day, I just want to make this a little impression. Now I need a bit of green in there, I think. A little bit of a slight green to complement the background. I'm going to put a hint of green in there. And you might find out this all getting a little bit muddy and a little bit messy. You know, you can just keep it simple. Just keep it simple your own way. You might have another way of doing it. And you use your method, use your own method. Whatever you think helps. Okay, you don't have to copy my method at all. Sometimes my methods can be wrong. Other times they work. It's different for everyone. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for now, because if you just keep overworking, it's just going to get very messy, isn't it? Let's move down. Let's move on down the glass. I'm going to go over the nice dark colour. A very kind of a dark greeny grey. I'm going to just start with the dark colours, okay? I'm going to look at the glass and see what the dark colours are hitting. Okay, we have a little bit of black there. And I'm going to go with similar colour to the background. I'm going to take some of that yellow and make a very sort of a dull green out of this. Take a look. More black. Okay. That dull green, look. Go right down the glass with that. Painting glasses is very tricky. You need a certain amount of confidence when painting glasses, I would say. I suppose really at the end of the day, don't be afraid. It's just a matter of saying, okay, look, it's only paint. What can go wrong? If I make a mess of it, I can just rub it off and go back over it. I think that's the key to trying paintings and, you know, not being afraid. Just try it. It's only paint. If the worst happens and it all goes wrong, at least you can say, look, I've learned something from it. Let's move on and try something else. Okay, I'm going to go to some slightly brighter colours. Cerulean blue with some white. It's a kind of a light green, okay? Very bright whitey green. And I'm going to start over here. I'm going to soften that through. Like that. And with the same colour, I'm going to go, let's see. And we are going slightly sideways with this, aren't we? We're going slightly off the drawing. But we can fix it. Put a little highlight down here like that. Even just rub that one away, look. Can't just rub it out with our fingers. No problem. I get some dark colour now, some little bit of black. I'm going to pop some black just up here. And a little touch of black just in here. And a touch of it just here. Like that. Okay. Do try and follow me along, okay? Just try. And just take your time. I know when you're looking at paintings like this, even when I look at people doing tutorials as well, because I do look at tutorials as well, and it looks very complicated. If you can just kind of simplify it, or try to simplify it in your mind, for me, that's the easiest way of approaching something. Now this is really kind of all loose work, okay? I'm just concentrating on getting the shading and all that kind of stuff in. And I'm going to build on that then. It's just very loose work. I just kind of really, the most important thing for me right now is getting the shapes okay. Doesn't have to be perfect by any means, but the shapes, okay? I'm filling in the shapes, just getting those as good as I can. Now a bit of dark colour down here. I'll go for a little bit of dark green. You can see I'm just literally picking up hints of yellow and adding little hints of yellow and even softening them in as I go. You see, softening them right in. It's quite dark down this side. I'll take some burnt umber, pop a little burnt umber in there. Because you have to remember, this side of the glass down here is really in shadow. It's really covered in shadows, isn't it? So you can hardly make out, you can only make out slight little highlights in the glass. So we're getting there, we're just getting there slowly. As I said, we'll take our time. There's no rush whatsoever with this. We have plenty of time. Let's just get these shapes right first before we start putting on highlights and all that kind of thing. Okay, now I'm going to get a lighter colour. Some Naples yellow, cerulean blue and some white. And I want to pop that colour down here. You can see that light side is a bit more blue in this actually. It's a very soft light blue. Okay, let's go again. And I always tend to leave my very bright highlights till the end. I think for me, it just makes it much easier. Okay, I'm going to stop at that now just for a moment. It probably looks a little bit wonky or whatever, but okay, we'll keep at it. Isn't that right? Now you're looking at the camera at a slight angle, so it does look like this is going over to one side slightly, but it's not. Okay, from my view here, it's completely straight. Okay, let me show you. You're looking at it from slightly the left side, so it tends to want to lean left slightly or lean right. But when I photograph this now later, you will see what I mean. I'm going to just concentrate on these a little. Now I'm going to get some very bright colours. Phthalo blue, lots of white. I'm going to start putting in some very bright lights around here and there on the glass. Okay, first of all, I'm going to start over here. Okay, like that. I'm going to put one or two down there. And you really want a pointy brush for this, wouldn't you? A very pointy brush. Get touches of white. Put little touches of white here and there on some of these. It's it's difficult. It really is difficult to get that glass look, isn't it? Takes a lot of practice, and this is not something that I would kind of paint a lot. So even for me, this is a learning process. I'm learning all the time. Now I'll get some of that blue, and I'm going to come down here, put a hint of that blue just at the bottom here. Okay. Again, more blue. And go right out here and put lots of that bright color, bright blue, in out here. Okay. And I'm going to kind of swoosh it back, just leave it backwards. Now don't worry about the end of the glass here, we can fix all that later with our darks, okay? Don't worry about that. Okay. I'm going to go for some dark color. Some black and cerulean blue. We'll just put some darks in here because it needs a lot of dark, doesn't it? With it being in the shadow and everything, it does need quite a bit of dark color. Phaylo blue and black. I made a small mistake there, but that's fine. It's easily fixed. I'll take black, burnt umber. Get some rich darks in there. And then we'll just pop over here and put a few tiny little dabs of very dark here and there. And then a couple of flicks of a very bright whitey blue, okay? And when I say a couple of little flicks now, what I mean is little tiny dabs. So here, for example, okay, and one or two just here. If you look closely, you can see little hints of a rich blue just over on one side. Now we have the same thing on this here, and I'm going to put a little hint of that rich blue just along there as well. Okay, now we have the top half of the glass through. We can come back to all this later on at the end of the show. I just really want to get this lovely glass finished. This could be a little tricky. I'm going to start with a darker green. I'm going to get some of that cadmium yellow and cerulean and a hint of burnt burnt sienna. Let me just check this now first. Okay, it's a little bit dark. Let's get some more cadmium yellow and more burnt sienna. It's a warm color. Okay, take a hint of white. And the idea is the color behind is showing through the glass. So I'm just going to fill this now with a slightly darker shade, okay, first. And then we start putting in these little highlights. And the highlights do look a little bit funny, don't they? It's sort of coming out and around, isn't it? Like this. I'm thinking the easiest way to do this now is probably, let me just get some dark first, put a tiny flick of black through that here and there, just to suggest some darkness going through it, that's all. Little touch of darkness here and there. Okay, just like that. Now, this next part is going to be a little bit tricky. I'm going to take some white and some blue, little hint of yellow. It's a very bright, bright green, okay? Bluey, a very, very bright bluey green. What I can see here is a kind of a white line going down, and it's kind of flicking outwards like that. That's what I can kind of see now, just a little bit, okay? Okay, it's not that prominent, but I'll fix all these now with a little pointy brush very soon, okay? But it's really kind of very bright. And I'm then going to use my palette knife, okay? I'm going to get some yellow on my palette here, some fresh yellow. I'm going to go with a very whitey yellow, okay? I'm going to take some cadmium yellow. I'm going to get lots of white with a little touch of that blue already on the palette knife, okay? It's a very whitey yellow, but a hint of blue in it. Now, I think that's okay. You see this? What I'm going to do is, this is the tricky part without ruining it. Let's just try this. Just try it out and see how it goes. I'll rough up the edge just a little as well, look. Here and there. Okay. Then we have another little one. Like so. And then a light blue on this side. And I think this will help define the edge of the glass as well. Okay. And what I might do then is simply, perhaps with the soft brush, any soft fan brush that you have, let's try pulling this outwards slightly just to soften it. just to soften it and take the harshness off of the glass, okay? You can even go inwards as well. Just to give it that impression of a soft edge. Now, I don't even think that's too bad, to be quite honest. I'm relatively happy with that. I think I'll just sharpen that top edge with a tiny touch of this light colour. Just here and there, look. Just to define it a little bit, so it doesn't disappear into the background too much. And then I'll get a little touch of darker colour, maybe a hint of this blacky colour, and just go in underneath. Just to give the impression of that tiny ridge on the top of the glass. You see what I mean? Just like that. And as well, I'm going to put a little dark there, and then a slightly lighter colour again over that. Some orange. Now all these tiny little subtle lines will make a difference, all right? They will make a difference, don't worry. And then I'm going to take some bright colour and simply pop a little touch of one or two little highlights here and there. I am going to get some very, very bright colour because I really want to get some very bright whitey highlights. Here and there. Just one or two. And you know what? I might even put some of this colour into these underneath. Almost like it's reflecting. Now I need to bring this over before the hair, don't I? Okay. Then get some darker colour. What I'm doing is just looking around and I'm kind of noticing little areas. I'm noticing little areas which need to be worked on, okay? And you know, there's always a risk you can overwork something like this, always. So do be careful. This centerpiece, I'm still not happy with that, but look, I can kind of work away on it. And there's that danger that you're going to spoil your painting or overdo it. There's always that risk. But if you don't try it, you're never going to know. You see, that's the thing I find with painting. If you don't try something, you're just never going to know. All right, I'll stop at that. I'm going to crack on and do a bit of work on the apple, and I can come back to all of this later on. There's really no hurry. There's no immediacy with all of that, okay? Now, bright red apple. I'm going to need clean yellow for this. I'm going to put some clean yellow just here. Let's start with a very bright orange. Yes. Take some yellow and some cadmium red. A little bit more red, I would say. And this will really complement the painting. I think the splash of red now right in the middle of the painting is going to really make the whole thing jump out, isn't it? There, look at that. Now I will just go around in a big circle first. A lot of people will go around the top of the apple and kind of draw in between the shapes and all that. What I generally tend to do is just fill the entire thing with the colour and then go from there. Now it gets a bit darker on the back side, so let's just go with some cadmium red and some crimson. You can see a bit of white there. I can touch that up as well, don't worry. And always follow the curvature of the apple. Okay, you see, already it makes it more believable, doesn't it? I'm going to take some burnt umber, cadmium red, and some burnt sienna. I'm going to use that lovely rich colour to go down around the back of the apple. There we go. Then I'll take a hint of black and put the black into that colour. So we have a very reddy black, okay? Dark, dark, browny black. Very warm colour. Put that in right over at the dark side. And I'm going to cut across here like that. You can see the tip of the apple up there. And then come out like that, okay? Flick it along. Flick it around, covering the apple, following the curve. And I love painting fruit like this where you leave the brush stroke. Sometimes it looks quite nice. And then finally some black and some crimson. Always adding a touch of red into your black. That just keeps it a rich dark colour, okay? On the red side. There, just like that. Now, what I'm going to do, and it's not on the photograph, is I'm going to take a touch of red, okay? That dark red. And I'm actually going to pop a little touch of that dark red into the glass, because that rich red will be reflecting slightly from the glass. It can't be seen on the photograph, but I imagine it would be a little bit, okay? So I'm going to just pop a little hint of it into the glass as a reflection, just to kind of tie it together, just a touch. You see what I mean? Just down there. I don't know if you can see it or not now, but I put a touch of it down there. Now we're moving on to the highlight side of the apple. So we have a lovely bright yellowy orange up there. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with some Naples yellow. And I'm going to come up here and put that in. Okay, like that. Let's do it again. I'm going to fill in this little, it's almost like a little triangle up here, isn't it? Now it's probably a little bit more on the photograph, so I'll make it slightly bigger. I'm going to come down slightly further with that. Okay. I'm also going to work on some highlights. While I have that colour out, I might as well just pop in a few highlights and just brighten some areas of the apple as I'm here. Little couple of kind of flicks of yellow, bright yellow. Then I'm going to go really bright, some yellow with a little white. And it can be tricky with oils because trying to get the colour to stay, the colour tends to mix with the layers underneath. So it can be quite tricky to get the colour to kind of stay where you want it to. What I would say is possibly just don't mix the colour too much. Do you understand? Then I'm going to get some dark red. I'm going to get some dark, rich cadmium red with some of that brown. And I'm going to go up here and just create a little ridge, little lip. You see? Now, as that red comes down, I'm going to add the yellow to it. You just simply take some yellow and add yellow. Work some yellow into the red, you see? That gives you a nice orange. I'm going to sit back for a moment. Next, I'm going to pop in some highlights. There's actually some very light mauve highlights on that. I don't know if you can see it or not, but if you zoom in on your reference photograph, if you download it, you'll see there's some very light mauve highlights on the front of the apple there. Little crimson, phaylo blue and some white. And I'm just going to very lightly, you see that? Now, the reason I put plenty of crimson in this is because of that yellowy colour there, okay? Just keep it pinky, a pinky mauve. And you can add little highlights of blue then afterwards, okay? Now, you see that? It just gives a little roughness to the apple. The apple is not completely smooth. You can see little tiny little dots and little, you know, the surface of the apple skin is kind of, it's not completely smooth, is it? Now, when I say smooth, it's not completely smooth like a ball. I know that it's smooth, but you can see little darks and little lights here and there on the apple. I get some cadmium yellow and some white. I'm going to pop some really nice bright yellowy whitey highlights in there as well. Then I'm going to go back to my darker colour, darker red colour. And again, just put a little, suggest a little, do you know those little dots that you get on the apple? Small, tiny little dots. It's really just a rough kind of a surface, really. You can dab it as well. You can soften them down. Look, you can do a lot. You can just mess around with the surface of the apple. Now, to give that a splash of brightness, I'm just going to simply take some cadmium red, and I'm going to put some cadmium red here and there, just to really warm this apple up, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is pop some nice rich dark shadow down underneath the apple. Some crimson, some black, and some cadmium red. And I'm going to just pop that very dark colour. Almost disappears into that glass, doesn't it? And the shadow disappears into the apple as well. You can almost not even see where one begins and the other one finishes. Bring it down like that, and just let that colour soften down onto the table. Then I'm going to rub with my finger. I could use a fan brush, or a soft brush, but I find I have more control with the fingertip just doing this little bit here. I know it's not good for your fingers and your skin and all that kind of thing, but look, come on, isn't life very short? Okay, I'm just going to fix that back part, and we're getting there then. We're getting there slowly. I'm going to just lose one or two of those just slightly there, okay? They're a little bit strong. I'll get more cadmium red and just pop a little more. That's just there. And that little colour at the back there, I'm going to pop a little of that. In there. Okay. And also I have the handle to do. I forgot about the handle of that canister. It's very dark. You can almost not even see it. So I'm just going to make it very dark, blacky green. And I'm going to go like this. Okay. And we also have the ridge on the bottom to do as well. Take some black. Soften some black in there. Then I'll take my pointy brush and put a tiny, tiny hint of a light colour in there. Let's say a little touch of an orangey colour, okay? Again, for the reflection, I'm going to put a hint just like that. Let that soften in. Okay? Just a hint. So my friends, onto this little ridge, and we are almost finished. So let's start this. I'm just going to make up a nice warm colour. I start at the back and put that kind of, you see that yellowy hue at the back? That kind of warm yellow we used for the reflections. So I'm going to start, I think, with some of that. There's a hint of green in this now as well. So cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, and perhaps a hint of cerulean blue. Just a hint. And I'm going to start with that kind of it's a very warm, kind of a muddy green, okay? I'm just going to go around like this. Now we can make it more circular, okay? This will take probably a few tries to get right. So let's just try it and see. Now I'm going to come down like that at that side and down here at that side. And don't worry, we'll add darks into this. Just fill this in, okay? And I'm going to go the same on the bottom. I'll put another little one out like that. And I'll come around. Like so. Don't worry now if we make little mistakes on this, okay? We can fix mistakes. As you well know, we can fix anything with painting. Okay, I'll go with that. Then I'm going to take some black and a little touch of yellow. Now it looks pretty much black, okay, but it's very blacky green, and maybe a hint of phthalo blue as well. So just reflecting those dark greeny kind of colours throughout. You see? Soften that through. And don't worry now if this doesn't cover perfectly, don't worry. We can work away and finish this. You can work away in your own time as well and just finish it, okay? There's no major hurry with all of this. I'll take some black, some burnt umber, and I'm going to just put hints of dark colour in here. It's great kind of working on dark shades like this, because when I put the highlights on this now in a minute, very soon, you can see it will just sort of jump to life. It's all about the highlights for me with paintings like this. The highlights and the shadows, obviously, but the highlights really are what bring it all out and just allow it to jump off of the wall. So next time I'm going to do is take some cadmium yellow. A very dirty palette today, my friends, don't we? Very dirty. My mentor wouldn't be happy. I watch a lot of Alwyn Crawshaw. When I was young, I loved watching Alwyn Crawshaw. Um, I kind of learned from him, really. And I just loved the way he approached painting, simplifying everything. And actually, he gave me his phone number. I must contact him. He wants to give me some advice and little hints and tips and stuff like that. So I'll be having a nice conversation with Alwyn Crawshaw very, very soon. I'm looking forward to that. Now, a little touch of that yellow here and there. Look. So it's just basically flicking onto the metal here and there. Now, I know it looks a little bit out of place at the moment, but the next thing we're going to do is take some light blue. Cerulean blue with some white. Or even, look, let's go for some phthalo blue. Let's give it a bright blue. And I'm going to put that darting on this side. Flick it along like that. Then add a touch of pink into that. Let's make it more pinky. And a little hint of it over here. Okay. You see, it's just coming along now ever so slowly. Then I'm going to get some bright white and a little cadmium yellow. And I'm going to put some little flicks of that bright white. I need more cadmium yellow, actually. I do have quite a dirty palette now, don't I, to be fair. I should know better. But we're almost finished. A little bit reflecting on this underside here. So light is kind of bouncing off of one and up onto the other, if that makes sense. Soften that out. That's the kind of effect I can see. Then I'll get some pure white. Okay, a little bit of white. And there's a lot of white right here. You see that bright splash of white? Very bright, bright, luminous spot right there. And we can add a little hint of it here as well. And perhaps, let me see. I don't want to kind of overdo this either, you see. I just want to make it nice. I'll get a little bit of darker colour. I'm going to go for some black and some burnt umber. I want to get some nice rich darks around as well. I'm going to darken this section here. So you see, although we finished this earlier on, you can still add little tiny glazes to it here and there. So like for instance back here, look, we can darken all of this again. So just go up a little into your handle. And then you could just soften it with your finger, look. Soften it across with your finger. So that now adds an extra little darkness to that side, doesn't it? Then we'll come down here. I want to add some dark into this. Some burnt umber. Burnt umber rather than black, I find it's probably a little bit better because it's warmer, slightly. I'm going to take some burnt umber then, and I'm going to pop some burnt umber here first, and then down, across here, and a little bit in there as well. Now, let me just take a look at this. How's that? There may be a little bit too much bright colour in there. So look, I'm going to add a hint of green. Take some black, a little cadmium yellow, and some phaylo blue. You could add a little green through there. And then, again, a little bit of warm colour. Like so. Now I am going to darken one side of this. You see, just up here, I want to darken it slightly. Maybe a little bit too bright, yes? Okay, next I'm going to just add a little shadow in behind that with some black and some phaylo blue. So I'm going to kind of soften the back of this slightly in to my background, okay? Like so. Right, I'm looking around now. I made a slight mistake here with I had a touch of cadmium red on my finger, and you see how that's after going on to the painting? Let's fix that. Phaylo blue, Naples yellow, a little bit of cadmium yellow, and some black. Let's just mix a very dark kind of a greeny colour for this. And just pop that over there. Look, just scrape it across. Now, there we go. That's that much done. I might lighten the reflection of the apple a little bit. I think it may be still a little bit strong. So I'm going to take some red, let's take some Naples yellow and some burnt sienna. So I might just add a little flick of a light colour just through there like that. Look, very gently. Just to bring it out that little tiny bit. Is that enough? I'd say that's enough. And yes, also perhaps a little bit lighter there. Go with some phaylo blue, some white, and a little crimson. Okay. Perhaps some of this yellow as well. It's just to show off that real bright highlight there. You see that? Flick it very gently across. Soften it out. And I think I'm going to call this finished. I don't see any reason to keep working on this. I just wanted to keep it nice and subtle. Okay. I might darken some little parts here and there with some blue and black together. Make a nice dark colour. And look, for instance, we could go up and darken that right down as well. Soften it down with your finger. So you see we're adding very light little glazes here and there onto the painting, you see. So just because you finish it the first time, it doesn't mean you can't go back and add little touches of paint. Of course you can. Absolutely, there's no reason why not. You can put a bit of dark down behind this again. Just darken it slightly. Take a little hint of black. Just at the bottom. And you could soften that around, you see? And then you could even bring that almost, let's say, disappearing into the shadow and the glass, right? Just sort of, it's all sort of becoming one within the shadow, just like that. I think, my friends, we are finished. Now that was a nice long tutorial, wasn't it? I must say, I really enjoyed doing this. I add a touch of green just across there as a little tiny bit of a reflection in the glass. Not too much, but just a little. And I might also darken this little piece in here. And perhaps we'll just touch up this. Okay, without going too overboard, obviously. And we are finished, my friends. I must say I'm very, very happy with how this has turned out. I'm going to take a little colour and sign this. I'm very, very, very proud of this painting now, I must say. If you would like to learn about this type of painting and much other besides, please do subscribe. It's mighty fun and it's very laid back. I think you will agree. Let me zoom in and show you slightly close up what we have. If I can zoom in, don't think I can. No, so there we go, my friends. Finished. I hope you like it. And there we go. That's it for this show. I will see you very soon. I'm going to paint that little glass bowl of apples for Patreon now in the next couple of days. So do watch out for that, my friends. Pop over to Patreon if you do wish to support me. And you can see all those extra tutorials as well. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Happy painting, and give this a go. Just even do one or two little items from the painting if you would like to try it. I will see you, my friends. Take care and God bless.